Shun getting up there constantly, being able to put that pressure on Xiaoxu. They really took advantage of this guy up in the top lane, and we'll see if they're going to be able to do that here today.
All right, well, starting off here, it's BLG selecting first pick, JDG selecting blue side. JDG is going to focus some of those powerful meta junglers at the very beginning, looking at Shun specifically, getting rid of Pantheon, getting rid of Xinjiao. And on the other side, we're looking at some bottom laners and then the top side too. Rumble banned away alongside Karma and Seraphine. Of course, with Seraphine almost counting as a double ban because often Ashe is only played with her, even though we have seen a couple exceptions to her.
Yeah, we have seen a couple exceptions, but definitely Enchanters are the name of the game. They are ridiculously powerful in this new season with the role quest. Increased gold generation just allows you to get to those 2-3 item points where you super outscale melee supports. It's going to be a Poppy ban as the last ban here, and I'm going to be interested to see where BLG wants to go. These LPL teams really do love their Vi, so I wouldn't be shocked if we just saw an early Vi, early AD jungler here to kind of set the tone.
Especially with Pantheon and Xinjiao already banned away, right? You look at, I know you're a big proponent of this conversation, how all of the junglers, all of the meta junglers these days are those AD bruiser types. So with two of the premier ones already removed, the priority on the remaining ones just goes up.
So Orianna is going to be grabbed. Varus is another super high prio champion that is up and available. So now it feels like it is going to be a trade of the two. Okay. And the question is, do you want to try to deny the Nocturne trade, right? And so instead, it is going to be Jarvan plus that Varus. They are going to do that 1-for-1 trade. You are kind of expecting that Knockwave combo to be drafted for. We haven't really gotten to see it, I think, at all this tournament practically, because it's always been Orianna getting permabanned, right? And this time she is up and available.
And even if she does get through, oftentimes it's what you were saying. The enemy team will then pick the Nocturne themselves to deny that combo. So let's see if that's BLG's read. And certainly enough, it is. So Knockwave, that will definitely be a problem for an immobile AD carry like Varus.
Yep, absolutely true. But also, the same can be said for Orianna. You have Jarvan. If you don't have Flash, you can't really deal with the Cataclysm very easily. But someone who can deal with that Cataclysm would be the Ezreal, of course. The premier pairing is the Karma, which was banned out by BLG, so they wouldn't be able to get that, but it would be a safe, stable AD carry here for Viper. The question is, can you get a strong pairing alongside it if you want to go for it at all? And instead, it's looking like it's going to be a blind Gnar. To me, this is a nod to the fact that Xiaoxu's best champion is Renekton. And, they're saying basically, like, I'm going to blind Gnar, it's all right, and I'm going to make sure that you're not going towards that Renekton where you would be really comfortable. Yeah,
and when we're looking at not just the Gnar, but the pilot, Bin's last Gnar game, remember, he played this in one of the games against G2, and he was a problem in that series all the way, but in the Gnar game also had some big plays, had some huge moments. He's really not afraid of being the guy who says, no, this fight can go longer, I can clutch this out, let's make this play.
And they've done a lot of cool things with Fearless where, sometimes he is just blind picking Gnar, and then they'll ban Rumble and they'll blind Renekton in this next game, which are two of the kind of easiest answers to the Renekton, going later on into a Fearless draft. Of course, we know it's going to be Ambessa here for Xiaoxu as the answer. There is potential to find those all-ins on Bin when he's in mini form, but of course, Bin is a very, very good Gnar, like you're talking about, and it is double physical damage on the top side, so you are expecting him to go in towards those early plated steel caps, and that, with the threat of the Nocturne, is going to make the side lane a lot harder to play for Xiaoxu.
All right, into the second half of the bans, and the Galio is going to be banned out by BLG. That's one of those combos, we talk about Jarvan and Rumble being the hot pot. Well, Galio is like a big old ladle that goes into the bucket, so you don't want the Galio coming down on top of the Cataclysm. Can make it that much more difficult for whoever gets trapped inside. They'll ban that one away. Meanwhile, JDG, they're focusing AD carries. They're getting rid of that Ezreal that you already mentioned, just can get out of the Cataclysm so very easily. And then Nara, which has been just another top-level pick alongside that Varus. The team's put a lot of priority on as BLG double bans mid lane, getting rid of the Rise.
And it is another one that can get out of the Cataclysm. RE lets you dash out, obviously. Exactly. So you can be able to get out of that no problem. So they are really just attacking some of these safe AD carries for Viper. So we'll have to see where Viper wants to go. There are a lot of different options. Sometimes people will say, screw it, we're just going to like play dive alongside our team, and they'll go for a Kai'Sa style option to kind of avoid the dive by becoming the dive. Sometimes people will say, I'm going to assist the dive by playing Jhin, and I'll be 2 screens away pressing, curtain call, and that's going to be my way to actually deal with it. It is Alistar, so the 2v2 is a lot less scary now, and you are going to have, full info on what they have played. If you want to go for a range support, you can go that way. They don't have great point-and-click engage, though, so I would expect On to look for some sort of hard engage champion to try to really pull the comp together. Otherwise, you really are just relying on that Nocturne ulting in with the Shockwave, but sometimes that can work better as a follow-up. Strong 2v2 would be Corki Nami if they want to play more for that 2v2 though.
Right.
But I do think compositionally it's a little weaker.
Yeah. The tidal wave, of course, can
Bard makes
assist
sense to me.
with an engage. Okay, the Bard locked in alongside the Corki. Bard, obviously a very good laner as well.
Exactly.
So definitely going to be a problem for a weak laner like an Alistar.
And the other thing that makes me really like this pick is it's not as powerful of a 2v2 as if you have the Nami, but it is a strong lane. It's going to give you a winning 2v2, and it gives you not as much engage as like a Nautilus or whatever, but it does give you some engage, right? You're throwing that ult down onto this Varus. All of a sudden, the Varus has to flash the Bard ult, or they're just going to get caught. And if they don't flash it, well, guess what? The ball is waiting on your head as you come out. You get Shockwave, right? So it does give you some engage, though it is lower commitment, a little less reliable, and it does give you a winning 2v2. And with Viktor being picked in as well, you know, Viktor great into the Orianna, but now both of your carries do not have a dash, which makes it a lot easier for this Bard to be able to set up the plays.
Yeah, it's a pretty big issue when Bard can hit both of these immobile carries, when the Knockwave can hit both of these immobile carries. We know about how the combo between the Orianna and the Nocturne, if they have the timing down, even if you flash away from it, it's still going to pull you back in with the Shockwave. So pressure on the carries here for JDG, seeing if they'll be able to survive that. And again, I'm going to be so focused on the solo lanes here. Can JDG's solo laners keep up with Knight and Ben?
Yeah, that is the really big question. I mean, Knight has just been running the LPL for a long time, and this is the LPL on a road trip in Brazil, right? You know, it's still those players going up against each other, but a lot of players with a ton of regional success on both sides. JunJia, going into the LPL finals, had won 7 straight regional titles in the LCP/PCS. You know, he had been dominating there, went over to the LPL with HongQ. A lot of people didn't expect them to be a team that was actually going to be here. It was supposed to be AL, but they're, you know, able to get past, qualify in for this tournament, and put up a really good fight against BLG a couple of different times. But definitely the amount of individual skill and talent for BLG is really, that's the bar you have to be able to surpass if you want to ride, right? You know, you have to be able to not get blasted by Bin and Knight and Viper, which is very hard to do.
And you bring up Viper, and I do want to talk about Viper because historically, he's an incredibly talented AD carry player, right? He's very good on his mechanics. He shows up a lot. But I feel like at this tournament specifically, he has been underperforming. I've seen him probably be the weakest point of the BLG roster in the games that we've seen thus far. And I think if he can individually step up and get to the level we know he can play at, alongside Knight and Bin, who are currently playing like in that zone that I'm talking about, then BLG becomes an even more insurmountable wall to climb.
Absolutely. And I mean, so much of the LPL offseason was really dictated by Viper, because he had said he wanted to go, you know, he was willing to go to the LPL if he could play with a certain player, which everyone was kind of assuming was Knight. And that kind of put the whole LPL offseason basically on hold, because everyone was like, wait a second.
We're all waiting.
If we could get this guy, we could get that guy, and then we could get Viper.
Dominoes.
And then we could win Worlds.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was definitely one of these big ticket pickups here.
Yep, and hey, check out the left side of your screen right here live on patch 26.6. Warhound Senna will be dropping onto the Rift, and portions of that skin sales will go to the LoL eSports team. So pick that one up if you're a Senna player. Stack some souls, stack a new skin. It'll be a great time here in mid lane. HongQ's having a great time nice and early. You already mentioned it back in the draft. The Viktor feels good into the Orianna individual matchup. And over here on the left, a little bit of look at the international experience of all our players here in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Gala has a ton of experience, but for the most part, you know, there's a lot more experience on the JDG side. Shun as well as JunJia have a similar amount of experience, but it's really, you know, you're thinking about Bin and Knight and these guys who have so much experience internationally.
Ooh, Shun with the invade here at the red. Goes after JunJia. Should be able to win this trade. Nocturne is significantly more well-equipped as a duelist compared to Jarvan, so that just means that JunJia has to head on home.
Yeah, especially with Bard moving. They knew that Bard was roaming from bot, so they had to play that very, very safe. Xiaoxu in some trouble. Yeah,
Bin is just running him down here. Gets the proc on the fleet footwork for the extra little bit of speed. Hops forward, and that means it's an early flash forced in just the 1v1. Nice play there from Bin.
Yeah, and you hate to see that if you are a JDG fan. simply because the recourse you have in this matchup is threatening the all-in, right? And if you don't have flash, it is very difficult to actually do that. If you overcommit and that gets flashed away from, Bin is going to be rushing plated steel caps, has the fleet forward. He's going to have a lot of move speed with the hyperprocs as well. So you have to be really careful about those extended trades. As Knight just playing for the wave, I don't think HongQ has the damage to really do anything besides send it back to base and look on bot side.
Right, exactly. They know there's not a lot of mana left there on the Viktor. As On will go on a magical journey. Shun is waiting, but he knows that there's not really a play to be found in here just yet. And what you bring up with the flash in the top lane, I feel like that's just the nature of so many ranged versus melee matchups, is the melee champion really hates when he loses flash essentially for nothing, right? It's not like the jungler had to spend time to go up there and force that summoner spell. So Xiaoxu just going to have to get very familiar with the environment under the turret.
The sights and sounds of his tier 1 tower.
The smells too. It probably don't smell too good underneath that turret because you're just sweating there for the next 5 minutes as you wait for your flash timer to come back up. JunJia trying to steal away some chickens, but Shun flashes the emote at him, lets him know he's aware, and those chickens will, if nothing else, be a battle.
Yep, it looks like he is just going to have to back off for now, though. Doesn't want to play too dangerously, as Knight definitely getting beat up a little bit here from HongQ. And despite the fact that, obviously Knight is the much more iconic player, is a player that was kind of expected to be pretty dominant in these 1v1s, HongQ actually did quite well in some 1v1s against Knight, solo killing him at times in the LPL, getting the best of him in those 1v1s. It was more outside of the lane where I think HongQ had struggled in comparison to Knight. When Knight gets an advantage, he often knows exactly how to slam it home, whereas HongQ still sometimes shows his inexperience, sometimes taking fights he shouldn't even be looking for, even though he feels like, I can just outplay this.
And I mean, that makes a lot of sense when you consider the players themselves. Ooh, flash coming out there from On, wanted to threaten HongQ, forces the flash out of the enemy mid laner in response. But when you look at HongQ, he's very new to the scene, right? He kind of exploded onto the international scene last year. Everybody was impressed with his individual mechanics, representing the PCS. Knight's been playing for a very long time, so you of course expect him to be more disciplined, to have more overall knowledge, as HongQ, though, still has so much opportunity to continue to grow as a player.
He absolutely does. And On here has been pretty annoying for HongQ, honestly. Came for that little drive-by earlier, dropped a couple of those hot cocos.
That's
able to
baby.
give a bit more health there to Knight, then trades flashes, forces that. HongQ is winning this 1v1, but it hasn't been about it.
Oh, Bin with a sidestep of the public execution, but he misses the follow-up boulder toss. Xiaoxu still trying to get away here. Wallop also misses. Nice footwork there from Xiaoxu, making sure he doesn't get hit by those spells. If he does, it could have been a situation that potentially threatens lethal, as Bin still does have the flash, but Xiaoxu gets away. Now down the ultimate, though, and that's the only other way you could try to get on top of the Gnar with that flash not available. So this lane is going to continue to be an issue. Shun walking his way up. There was a large wave here at the turret. Xiaoxu trying to clear it out, but now here's your Dustbringer immediately into the tether. Shun taking the aggro for now. It's first blood over to Bin, and BLG makes it happen.
Yeah, and if you watch the finals, you've seen this one before. Shun up to the top side with Bin. Bin creating advantages and putting Xiaoxu down in this matchup. And Xiaoxu, as soon as he's losing out on that trade, as soon as he's getting pushed back, it's very tough because then you're under your tower. You know a dive could be coming. You want to clear out that wave, but the timing was so good from Shun because Xiaoxu spends all of his spells on this wave, and as soon as you see that there's no spells, there's no flash, there's no outplay.
Okay, Vampire goes in, tries to find a nice combo here onto On. They even commit the Chains of Corruption there from Gala. They get a good chunk of damage onto the enemy support. It costs his heal, but he's still just fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fine for now. The question is, can JunJia get in behind him and look for the follow-up? Because there's no flash on because of that trade in mid. That's what they're trying to punish.
Okay, On level 5 now. JunJia coming down with the Cataclysm available. Vampire starts off the dive, and On is already down. Kill goes over to Gala as well, as Viper tries to escape. Pops the clan, still has flash because of a turn kill. There when the Vampire wants to make his way back underneath the turret, but it's not going to happen. Double kill for Gala, and JDG gets exactly what they look for here in the bottom lane, as more than one wave's worth of creeps finds their way into the turret.
Nicely done there by JDG, and it's an interesting choice from Viper because clearly he's making the evaluation that I can't actually get out, so instead I'm going to turn, I'm going to fight, I'm going to try to get that kill. But both of the kills went to Gala, which is problematic. Vampire has TP'd up towards this top side and isn't looking for, oh, he is looking for an angle. Now he just uses jump.
Yeah, Bin already using the Mega Gnar there onto Xiaoxu. Hits him with another boulder toss, but the public execution finds the mark this time, and Bin has reverted to mini form. Xiaoxu should have the damage. Vampire's rotation ends up paying some big dividends as Xiaoxu gets the kill onto Bin, but back in the mid lane, it's HongQ under pressure yet again. Not only on, but Shun with the first paranoia sets it up so that Knight can knock it down and grab his first kill of the game. Azael, we are all tied up at 3-3.
Yeah, 3-3, pretty much dead even, just a couple hundred gold between these two teams. Both teams being very, very active. I love that play from Vampire. You don't want to just stay stagnant in the 2v2. You're playing Spellbook here. Gets out on the map, early TP up towards that top side, wasn't spotted by Bin, and then is able to just find a wraparound. Xiaoxu's playing a little bit aggressive. Bin goes for the bait, goes in on that trade, and all of a sudden there's an Alistar there, and now you are losing that wave, you are losing that kill, you are losing that plate, but we can watch this one more time. Easy setup in towards mid lane. Notice that Bard is tracking Jarvan. That is why they can go for this no problem. He's chasing him around in the jungle, so they know JunJia can't be here because Bard is autoing him in the jungle. He's pushed back, and they find a pretty easy kill there through mid lane, so a nice little bite back from BLG after Bin went down on the top side, and that's something that I feel like JDG struggled to do when they played, in the playoffs, is when Xiaoxu started falling behind, he often wasn't really getting a lot of help, and he was kind of just getting knocked out of it. So it's nice to see Vampire gets back up there, gets a kill for Xiaoxu, and keeps him relevant.
And once again, our supports will just be battling over vision as we are 9 minutes into the game. Remember, the first Dragon did go over to JDG as the answer after they saw the dive in top lane where Shun helped Bin get that first kill there onto Xiaoxu. And so now the Grubs are going to be the target for JunJia as he does smite down the first one and then decides to leave. Again, Bin has control and priority over the top lane. He gets to rotate first down into the river. He's already in Mega Gnar form, which makes it very easy for Shun to just force the enemy jungler away. He'll secure the other two Grubs.
Also worth noting, Knight going a pretty defensive build here, already has the Catalyst, so, it's not that kind of one-shot style build that sometimes you see, just the loot and the Shadow Flame, all upfront damage. This is more scaling, it's a lot more health, and I think it's just a nod to the fact that, well, there is Ambessa, there is Jarvan, there's all of this dive.
Okay, Chains of Corruption here on the bottom side, lots of damage from Gala, and Vampire on tries to get away, bops the heel, as the piercing arrow just barely doesn't have the distance. Gala gets caught by the Tempered Fate, and now Viper's looking for a little bit more. Nice timing there on the Foss Bomb plus the Rocket. Meanwhile, over in the mid lane, looks like we might have a little bit of a problem as junglers are showing up. Paranoia was already spent. However, JunJia was ready to respond, and that means that HongQ won't drop.
Yeah, HongQ flashes away. The knockwave was not perfectly timed, so the shockwave actually missed as the Paranoia went in. He was able to flash away from it, so good timing there on the flash from HongQ. Keeps himself safe, and of course, as you called out, with JunJia behind him, they cannot extend the play. Viper and On just trading heavily down on this bot side with Vampire and Gala. And the timing on the CC from them has been so nice. They're not overlapping anything. They're getting the combo into the Chains of Corruption and then perfectly having the trample stun right out of that. They're weaving in autos to try to get multiple sets of Blight procs there on this Alistar, or rather, and Varus combo. So doing a good job and putting that pressure on, and we are still at this pretty much dead even state.
And even though the game is dead even, when I look at the scoreboard and the individual states of the lane, it's pretty much what I expected. It's the solo laners from BLG having the leads, while on the JDG side, the bottom lane, they're the ones pulling ahead. Jungle relatively even. It's a very, very slight lead for JunJia, but it's like, what, one camp? So I'm not really going to count that one for being worth a whole lot. Second Drake of the game, however, is about to spawn. Ocean and Chem Drake are the first two Drakes, which means they can't be the soul, which honestly, if you're JDG, I think you're pretty happy about. It means you're going to get a higher value soul, and you're the ones who are looking to start with a 2-0 stack as they have total control over the bot side river. We can see BLG's jungler all the way up at his own Krugs, so with Shun nowhere nearby, it's not like there's going to be a contest. JDG are up 2-0 in Dragons.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's pretty much a can't miss soul. It's you're either going to get Cloud, Mountain, Infernal, or Hextech.
Mountain it is.
Those are all wins. So it is going to be Mountain, and of course, Mountain, very, very good. If you can survive that initial engage from the knockwave, it is going to be so helpful for your 5v5s.
And this is also playing into what you were talking about, JDG. during the draft, how this is a team that doesn't skip their steps. This is a team that makes sure they prepare correctly when it comes to objective fights. They were able to secure the first 2 dragons without a contest, so now as we move further towards that soul, we know that if the game state is even and that they can get there first, they're going to do it right.
Yep, they really are. They're very, very good at basically just getting to dragons early, and they get an early line of vision, often a couple minutes before that dragon spawns. Instead of just getting there and trying to get the vision right before it spawns, they'll often have early wards, and what this means is that even if your opponents come in and sweep that out and are placing their own vision, they often know exactly where the enemy wards are. They know where they're going to be looking to approach from. They know how to circumvent vision to actually set up their flanks, and I think as a result, they often have really, really good objective fights. I do think JDG has a real shot to out-teamfight BLG in this one.
Okay. JunJia gets away as On goes on a pretty long magical journey. That's one thing that I always look for when I see a game with Bard is, do you know all the angles to get the long magical journeys through the skinny parts of terrain? Because it really does allow your surprise factor to be that much more. As Bin just commits the Mega Gnar once again. So many Gnar players just love using this as a trading mechanism to guarantee that you're getting the edge over your opponent, guarantee that you maintain lane control, especially if we have a potential fight coming up here soon. It doesn't look like we are, though. Still about 90 seconds until the Rift Herald spawns. So just a crab battle once more for now, as Xun uses the Duskbringer for a little bit of extra speed towards this top side. Level 11 on both top lanes. Xiaoxu does have the public execution. Remember that Mega Gnar was already committed just a moment ago. Knight also rotating over towards this fight, but it's Vampire going in for the headbutt pull. Tempered Fate to try to disengage it. Paranoia turns off the lights. Knight down to half HP, goes on a magical journey back through the wall, but now the re-engage coming out from Xun and Bin looking for Xiaoxu, who has to flash away. Flash out from Xun, dodging the combo from JunJia, as now Bin gets stunned up, but he's not too worried about it. JunJia's going to be your target here next, as BLG, they use the Shockwave. That's going to force the flash of the Jarvan here as well. We got some pretty big flashes spent here, Azael, with less than 60 seconds on the clock until the Rift Herald spawns.
It's a fight where no one dies, but it's a fight where both supports are really the playmakers here. Vampire finds an angle, instant flash in onto Knight, but how fast was that Tempered Fate from On? Immediately came down to cover his Orianna there. Just beautifully done with the defensive Tempered Fate. Keeps Knight safe. And critically means Knight doesn't even have to flash. He lives, holds onto the summoner, and is feeling really good about it.
All right, so BLG still just not even a 1,000 gold lead. Rift Herald spawning in 15 seconds. Your coin-based gold grind showing the state of the top side there with about a plus 500 for Bin. It's him being the second biggest lead on the side of BLG. Knight up almost 1,000 in the mid lane. We know, though, that there's been so much attention from On specifically towards that lane, and it's led Knight to be over 20 CS ahead.
Absolutely has been a big impact, and Knight is a player that is worth getting ahead. This guy will pay dividends later on. That's an early game investment.
He's not the silver left
payout.
hand. He's the gold left hand, all right?
Man doesn't know what it is to get second in the LPL. He has mostly just been running things, and Ben just got his Triforce. The Eclipse was that earlier item spike, but now we're coming in looking for a fight off that spike.
Okay, On throws the Tempered Fate on himself, expecting the public execution to maybe hit, but now there's your Knockwave on to 2. JDG's got to be careful. However, Xun might just die. No, Knight gets the kill into Gala. Xun's still alive in the middle of everybody. Xiaoxu's going to be your target here next. Xun's still staying alive, but JunJia gets him on the way out. On with the flash away, and JunJia's going to die here next. It's a 3-for-1 for BLG, and they get their team fight. They're going to earn the Rift Herald off the back of it.
What an engage from BLG there. On threw down that early Tempered Fate. As you said, he thought the public execution was going to hit him, and you can't wait till it hits you or you're already stunned. So you got to precast it. Looks a little bit funny, but then the Knockwave re-engage catches Gala despite the flash being used, and On finds multiple bindings here that really were game-changing. There's the Tempered Fate to try to deny the public execution. They see this, look at this flash, can't disconnect it, hits the two-man shockwave. Now watch On, goes in, double binding onto 2 carries. Xiaoxu is stunned up. They kill off Gala. Bin lands another big stun, and then this binding as well. Another double binding, lets them flash in, grab a second kill there. Beautiful plays from On and from the rest of BLG. They made that one look easy.
Yup, the knockwave combo plus the bar double bindings back and forth. Really, really good stuff. But of course, since Shun was the one who died, I spoke too soon. The Rift Herald didn't actually get claimed by BLG because their jungler wasn't available on the map. So that objective is still ready to be contested. But I don't know if JDG will even have the ability to contest it again. They have already lost their top lane tier 1 turret. That's the first turret of the game being claimed by BLG. Now they're going after the Herald. They're going to pick up the crab on the way. And Shun and Bin should have total control over this. You can see the JDG roster is not anywhere nearby. The third Drake of the game has spawned. Their attention will likely be towards that area of the rift instead. And you can see JunJia trying to clear out some of the vision here, but On and Knight are waiting. Shockwave beautifully pulls JunJia back out of the combo, and now the Jarvan is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They will kill him in the river. He cannot get away. The timing from Knight's ultimate was perfect. And so now, not just the Rift Herald goes over to BLG uncontested, but in the meantime, the enemy jungler was killed, and Shun can just walk down and go back to back on objectives.
It's a new combo there for Jarvan. He provided the flag, but it was Knight providing the drag as he pulls him back with the perfect shockwave there. Gets the kill, gets in the dragon, slows down that march towards Soul, which is so important. And now top lane, mid lane becoming that problem that you were dreading as JDG. I mean, Bin, got that early lead. There was some jungle interference, but then Vampire had a great roam. You think maybe Xiaoxu's back in it. But right off of this Triforce spike for Bin, they get a huge fight. They're taking towers. They're taking plates. And there's just no one that's going to be able to really answer these BLG members in the side lane. So now you're at this point where you're trying to look for plays. You need JunJia to get involved. You need Vampire to have more of those good roams to try to turn something around, because the isolated 1v1s are going to be so heavily winning for BLG.
Right. This is a 2,000 gold lead pretty much for both solo laners on the BLG side. This is very difficult to play now for JDG. Going back to our conversation about JDG objective setup, yeah, they wanted to try to set up. It was JunJia trying to clear away some of the vision, but he wasn't ready for the Bard and Orianna to have enough damage to just burst him down. If you're Jarvan, you think, yeah, I can use my flag, I can get away, it's not that big of a deal, but you're up against Knight, man. This is not somebody you can trifle with.
Nope, not at all. And now he's got his Shadow Flame in completed here. And this is the head-to-head so far at first stand on how these two players have performed. Definitely a very strong laning phase in general for Bin. He has been looking really good in the LPL. Oh, we're going to see a dive maybe.
Okay, the lights are off.
No, he's walking away. They're just going to back off. So, Xiaoxu is really known mostly for his laning phase, particularly for his Renekton. Really is an incredible Renekton player, potentially one of the best, if not the best Renekton players out there right now. And we are going to see the shockwave
there. HongQ losing 3/4 of his HP. Drops the Arcane Storm to try to force Knight back, and they will manage to hold the turret for now.
Yep, just kind of trading those cooldowns back and forth. But yeah, Bin has always been better on the map than Xiaoxu. And Xiaoxu, it's really that strength in the laning phase that I think has made him such a fun player to watch. But when he gets put this far down, it is very difficult because Bin plays the map so well.
Okay, On taking a little bit of fire here as Vampire, JunJia, and HongQ again just trying to defend the entrance to their jungle, trying to defend this tier 1 turret that is barely holding on down here in bottom lane. But BLG wants to stop him. Nice engage coming out from Vampire, but the Tempered Fate again. It's On's board into the double binding right after, but Knight flashes away. He keeps his mid laner alive. On is doing great in game number 1. JunJia flies over the wall and Knight finally dies. HongQ takes the kill, and that one's a shutdown. On has to try to escape now as Shun and Viper realize there's nothing they can do to save their teammates. JDG find the engage they needed. They managed to pick up the 2 kills, but it comes at the cost of the tier 2 turret top.
Even with a great play there from On, it didn't matter. Now Shun's going to get walked down.
Yeah, this is just a blunder from Shun, hanging around too long to look at the tier 1 turret dying. Now he's going to have to do it from the grave.
And BLG, while they do have these really dominant early games, they have to be careful. They got to stay buttoned up, because this is something that we saw in the upper bracket finals, not the grand finals, but in the upper bracket finals. They created some really big advantages and still lost some of those games. They went all 5 in the upper bracket finals, partially because of plays like this. BLG, they have some of the most exceptional mechanics of any team in the world. They have some of the best solo laners and just individual players of anyone in the world. And sometimes that can lead to a little bit of overconfidence, right?
Yep.
And
they are a
little bit of hubris. And On is able to disengage the initial part of this play so well. The flash comes in. Again, Tempered Fate timing really, really good. Look at the flash from On to redirect the binding, gets the double stun. Knight is able to flash out. But then they say, hey, what if we just kind of walked back in? They see the TP is coming in. They know that JunJia's still there, but Knight does not back up after flashing out. He's just too confident.
Meanwhile, back to live, it's BLG going in for an invade yet again. The paranoia is not even needed, but the Tempered Fate finds a second target. They already killed the jungler, now they want the top laner as well, and BLG find 2. That's exactly what you want to see. Yes, they have a mistake in the bottom lane. They brush it off. They get right back up to their old ways. The Rift Herald is summoned up in top lane to be a distraction. Isaac, there's 22 minutes on the clock. There's Baron in the top side of the river, and there's BLG looking to take it. There's no enemy jungler to contest. There's no enemy top laner to be that front line. I don't really see a way for JDG to stop this, so Baron goes over to BLG.
Yep, and generally the recourse to this would be, oh, well, maybe we'll push in mid, get a tier 1 there, but on TP'd mid to clear out the wave as well off of this pick here. JunJia walks in, he has no flag, and he just walks in very confidently into on, gets bound into that blue buff. The shockwave is there to follow. We're back to live and on.
Yeah, he wanted to get some vision. He was thinking the Rift might have been safe enough, but unfortunately for him, it is not.
Found Viktor.
If you're JDG, you're honestly pretty happy with that, because at least that's going to slow down this Baron war machine, because they only have a 4v5. Normally picking off the support randomly can not mean a whole lot, but here I feel like it can at least slow them down a bit. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ben's going to make me a liar as he pushes into the enemy base. The flash away to try to escape from Xiaoxu, as Shun takes a lot of damage from the Nexus turrets, but not enough to make it an even trade. This is what you were talking about from the finals. It's Ben and Shun taking Xiaoxu's lunch money the entire game long. The Ambessa 1 and 4. Yes, JDG will achieve soul point here as they grab their third Drake, but it's critically not the Mountain Soul, because BLG got that one earlier, and now it's the JDG base that's cracked open.
I mean, they're just bullying this poor guy. Ben ate his lunch, Shun put him in the locker. They just won't leave him alone, even under the Nexus towers.
Oh man, now JunJia's trying to get away, but again, this Jarvan is constantly the victim of the shockwaves. Gala with a defensive chains of corruption, but that doesn't matter. It's a double kill for Viper's Corki. On goes on a magical journey. HongQ and Vampire go home because nowhere is safe outside of the base. BLG are on the warpath, and their opponents only have 3 champions to try to stand against them. The top lane tier 3 turret is already down. BLG with a 4-man push. Shun is going towards the bottom lane, wants to take out what's still standing of that tier 2 turret. There's not full health on it, still about half or so, as the rest of BLG will now be able to rotate over, guaranteed that they can continue to apply that pressure. Meanwhile, Knight is going to make sure they still have 2 points of pressure. Oh wait, the map lied to me. I thought that said 3 plates, not 5. Anyway, it was full HP, but it's not going to be for very long, as Knight continues making sure that there's more than one thing JDG has to worry about, and BLG claims the last remaining tier 2. Azael, this is a 9,000 gold lead.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, you're on soul point. That's maybe the hope and the prayer, but at this point, doesn't matter if your objective setups are good, because you're not getting near that thing. And we saw Gala getting caught out. JunJia is kind of trying to create some space for Gala, knowing that Gala is going to be in a lot of trouble there, but he dies in a hurry. They just pile in an easy double for Viper, who hasn't really been a part of too much this game, but is quietly over 2,000 gold ahead at this point. It's really been about the map movements from on. It's been about the soul lanes coordination with Shun. And it's about BLG winning out in these important fights, playing the map better, and they have taken down every tower outside of the base and one in top lane inside it as well.
Yeah, I don't really see a way back in here for JDG. I mean, even if you manage to get... Okay, there's one way. The one way is BLG makes a turbo int. You manage to get like a really one-sided fight, 5 for 2, 5 for 1 or something, and then you claim Mountain Soul after. Yeah. That's pretty much the only way. So as long as BLG doesn't put themselves in a spot where they're just going way too far, diving between Nexus turrets or something, a 9,000 gold lead 25 minutes into the game just feels like far too difficult for JDG to deal with.
It's so hard, and your best target is going to be Knight, but he has a full Zhonya's 10-stack Aroa. We've seen how good On has been with these defensive Tempered Fates. He's going to be there with the Locket, and that is going to make things incredibly hard here. Bin is just unstoppable in the side lane right now. He's on 3 full items, and they're more expensive items than what Xiaoxu has as well.
When you look at the gold, he's more than 1 fully completed item ahead of his opponent. So it's not just these items. The gold that he has in his pocket is probably still 4 digits or something. Like, this is not even remotely close. Ambessa can't be on the same screen as the Gnar.
Yeah, it's just not much he can do about it. And HongQ, yeah, you can wave clear against the Gnar, but if you overstep at all, he's going to kill you in that 1v1, no problem. So BLG just controlling this bot side, making sure that JDG has no way in at this next dragon. They know that would be their only real hope, so it is their job to not give them any shot at the 50-50.
Plus, when you have a side laner who's this powerful, it only becomes that much more painful when you look at the fact that there's both a Nocturne and a Bard on the enemy team, which is the perfect way to support a side laner, either offensively or defensively.
Absolutely agree. BLG just taking away everything that they can. There's multiple wards up on the top side, 3 wards in the enemy jungle on top side, 4 or so down on that bot side that you can see across the way. So they have full vision of everything. Just going to be waiting for these next couple objectives here to spawn. Next Baron buff could be curtains for JDG. If BLG can grab the dragon, grab that, feels like they would have enough to probably push in and close out this game.
Yeah, they're obviously waiting on the timers for the neutral objectives. Those timers are almost exactly synced up. So if you're BLG, obviously you want the Baron to make that game-ending push, but I think you've also got to make sure that you don't just randomly give them Mountain Soul in the process of doing it, because that will make things, I think, significantly more annoying. So I'm curious if BLG are going to just priority the dragon first, since it does spawn a couple of seconds ahead. JDG, I don't really see a world where they can try to contest anything in open ground against BLG, as now it looks like On may have got caught. Honestly, this is huge for JDG. 30 seconds to go until that dragon spawns and the enemy support is down. Now Bin gets caught on the very edge of the public execution, has to flash away as he reverts to mini form, and JDG might have found the chance to grab this Mountain Soul. Can they make sure they maintain this control? However, JunJia goes in. The follow-up is right there. Knight has to flash over the wall, trying to stay alive. Shun comes in, wanting to support his carries, create a little bit of space. The pressure is on, and now they've already found the kill into Gala. They try to reposition their jungler, but JunJia falls as well. Shun still staying alive. Knight, Bin, and Viper all firing back, and this is Viper's moment. The Corki with the double kill, as Bin and Knight should have enough damage to take down Xiaoxu easily. HongQ goes after Viper, but the Corki is running and gunning and standing and fighting, and now HongQ's about to die too. He goes golden, but the gold is nothing but a trophy for BLG 4v5. They're staying alive.
It was a good shot there from JDG, about as good as they're going to get in this game. They almost made it happen, but even with On not there, they still lose out on the play here. It's a good trap that they laid. They catch On. They are able to burst him down. We can see in live they're taking the Baron. That's not going to be contested. And then they say, you know what? We got to full send it. It's not going to get better than this. Xiaoxu is able to tag Bin. They're able to chase in. And the start of the fight looks pretty good, but it's the gold lead in action. Even with them getting in on tonight, they land the initial combo. They can't find enough follow-up damage. He flashes over the wall, has the stasis. Shun and Viper on the side are creating so much space. Gala doesn't have anyone to protect him. Viper just walks up behind him, knocks him down. And then you look at the health bars, you realize, yeah, Bin is still 5k up, and Bin is basically full HP at this point, can't be stopped by JDG. And even HongQ can't really win out in this duel against Viper because the reinforcements come through. Viper spends the Fash, the Cleanse, and they get the Seekers off HongQ and do end up winning the fight.
Yeah, I loved how Shun and Viper played that. Shun diving in on top of the enemy AD carry, and Viper's positioning was just perfect for that whole engage, right? Because he had the trees to make it so the enemy melee champions couldn't put pressure onto him, but he still had the damage onto Gala. I don't blame JDG at all for going for it, because in a game state like this, when you have a 5v4, you've got to just send it to try to get the soul, maybe try to get the Baron afterwards. But BLG's got hands, man, and those hands are heavy, and so are their pocketbooks. Now 12,000 gold ahead, no potential for a Mountain Soul for the next 4 minutes. Baron still has 2 minutes on that Rebel Baron power play timer, and I feel like this is probably going to be the end of it. Is On, defensive tempered fate, keeping himself safe. Here's your TP ready to reinforce. On stays alive, and now JDG has to scramble to try to get away. Bin nearly has the full Gnar bar charged as he chases after Vampire, gets knocked away by the headbutt. JDG doesn't lose anybody here, but neither does BLG, so the push is going to continue.
Still a good look there from JDG. This is all you can really do. You're down 12k. You've got to look for brush camps. They almost burst down On, but this time with the heal, with the defensive tempered fate, and the TP coming in, JDG has to run before they can actually finish off the Bard. And now you have to face down this Baron up push. We can see On is going up through mid. He's going to be getting that moving in the right direction. And Shun has no paranoia, so he can't reinforce either side that easily. So they need to get these waves synced up and try to get those going in to get the pressure onto JDG. Otherwise, this game is going to stall out, and that's not exactly what you want as BLG. You don't want to give them more opportunities.
Yeah, we're getting towards the point where that much more gold for BLG won't do a lot more. You still have one more item that you can get on both of your solo laners. You still have another couple items that you can get on Viper. But the further it goes, the worse it gets, because this is just such a massive lead. You want to end it fast. So let's see if they can accomplish that. JDG have held the line for a minute and 20 of that 2 minutes of the Baron, as now BLG continue their push, but there's the Paranoia into the dive with an Aquave combo, and now the Gala's already dead. BLG have surely found their moment. Shona's gonna die though, as Vampire's creating space with Unbreakable Will. He finally falls. Xiaoxu's your next target. Bin hops in because he's got the Guardian Angel. He'll resurrect. Shun died, but he's the only one. HongQ tries to get away, but Viper does so much damage on the Corki, and that will do it. 5 for 1. BLG find the fight. They're going to eliminate the remainder of the JDG structures with a 16,000 gold lead almost by the time game 1 ends, and BLG are up 1-0.
Exciting game 1 here from BLG, really showcasing the individual levels here in those solo lanes, crushing it through top and mid. On, I think, though, for me, I think On is my player of the game. He was helping out Knight so much in the mid lane. He was perfect with his Tempered Fates, finding great bindings in a lot of these 5v5s as well. I feel like he was everywhere.
Yeah, it's really easy to look at Knight and to look at Bin and be like, both of these guys just smurfed it. But I think I've got to agree with you. On being everywhere all of the time, whether he's using the opportunity to show up in a place where you wouldn't expect him, whether he's just giving hot cocos, he was smurfing, BLG was dominating. Lounge, what do we think?
I think Bin is